to another episode of Supportive Advice Live. This is your host, Aquila Wheatley, licensed marriage and family therapist. I also have a guest with me today. My 13-year-old daughter is in here doing her homework, supervised by none other but myself, making sure it gets done and gets done correctly and timely, right? So I am going to be splitting my attention as moms do, um, and that's okay. So I'm going to invite Mr. Machismo to speak because, again, the world would be so boring with just one point of view. Hey, Mr. Machismo, what's happening?
Howdy, everybody. Nothing much. A nice. Most of the week almost over. That is a wonderful thing. That week after Thanksgiving, it always be rough. You done had all them days off.
Yeah, then you
On the
got to get
working
back in the
side,
swing of things.
man, you almost forget you work. It's like, wait a minute. Oh man, back to life, huh?
Like, oh, I ain't have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off too.
Right. Man, they coming up short. Man. They're supposed to give us a bow tie. I felt too good.
Life's right. Especially after the holidays. Um, I know one thing that I've been talking a lot with my clients about coming into this holiday season is differentiation, right? How are they um, differentiating from the family system, right? Or how are they practicing differentiation from the family system? How are they practicing healthy boundaries, avoiding enmeshment, right? During this time. And also, how are they being self aware, recognizing their triggers and emotional responses as they get around family members that maybe they don't deal with, on a regular basis? And that might open up some old wounds. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and get ugly when when you mess with half the family. It's a whole thing. But it's you kind of gotta know what house not to go to or when it's time to leave. When it's time to make a smooth getaway. Yeah, it all depends, man, on the situation, man. It might be you just don't want to be around your certain people because they just annoying, or you just they try to tell you something and they don't know nothing. But it's, at the same token, you can learn a lot, if nothing else, but what not to do. So it just depends on each person's family dynamic because it can get ugly. It can get real ugly. Cousin Bobo and them ain't for the right thing.
So I want to highlight what you said, right? It can get pretty messy, right? Holidays like Thanksgiving, Christmas, I mean even New Year's, to some degree, might involve spending time with people that you may not have developed as thick a skin around, right? Explaining parts of yourself that, your immediate family already understands, defending certain life choices and things of that nature can come up, different points of view and the expression of that in a respectful manner, and then being able to understand which of the values that are being expressed actually belong to you, differentiation, versus those that do not. And then understanding that just because you disagree doesn't mean you can't validate, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's we like you say at the beginning, the world will be boring without a lot of different point of views. But as long as each point of view is considered valid, we ain't gotta agree.
So, again, as I stated before, I am multitasking. So, I'm talking to my daughter here as well as doing the podcast. And I was actually talking to a client the other day about multitasking and how it is not something that was ever intended for humans, right? You're not doing two tasks at a time, but you're just shifting two different tasks very swiftly, as if moving between two screens. So I'm going to do this in real time. So I'm reading this. How would you respond to an interviewer? How would you respond if an interviewer did ask an inappropriate question or a question that was not allowed? The answer to the question is, I would feel uncomfortable and irritated. So I politely explained to her that she needs to elaborate on that, right? So that's what we're doing. Elaborate on that, please. Thank you. Yes, I hear the huff and the puff, and it's real. So, with that, with that being said, um, when when you are with family members, right? Again, there might not be as thick of skin, right? And so this can lead to expressions that may be misconstrued, not well received, things like that. What are some ways that you typically get around those types of conversations, Mr. Machismo?
Well, as far as individuals that are, when you say that, you mean like closed-minded individuals, or elaborate on that?
So essentially, what I mean is just individuals in which you might share different points of view with. It could be because they're closed minded, it could be because maybe they believe that you are closed minded. It doesn't really matter whose perspective is perceived to be stunted. More or less mattering, how do you deal with those types of situations? How do you manage them?
Oh, now my new method that I've kind of seen some success with over, I'll say, the last couple years is I listen. First of all, because it's a different perspective. Once I listen, I let them know that I basically respect their perspective. Although we aren't on the same page, I understand where you're coming from, or I'll ask questions to maybe get a better feel as to why they say that, and kind of just go in that manner. And that kind of, to me, that kind of relieves me of any negative connotations, where I'm really coming there to really develop perspective, as opposed to impress my opinions on a person to change their mind, and vice versa. It's really a good dialogue where you can learn something that you may not have knew before. So I found that recently to be kind of healthy.
So I love that you said that, right? Because what you are describing is leading with curiosity, right? And I'm also going to bring Mo in to speak. I know that you can't stay long, so I want to make sure that I get your feedback while you are here with us. But yes, curiosity. What you said is, you are in a permeable state. You are not coming in closed minded with your mind made up of what you believe or what you don't believe. You are coming in with a willingness to listen, a willingness to hear a differing point of view, without the want to attack it, and I think that's really important. A lot of times, what we'll see is that defenses are up before there's ever even a battle. And
Yeah.
when that happens, then no one is hearing anyone. There's no growth in that conversation, right? There's just contempt.
Absolutely, neighbor. Yeah, it get it. Even if it's a perspective that I know is totally contrary to what I'm into, what I believe, what like to give an example, skydiving. I've discussed with somebody how they have a desire to skydive,
Okay.
and there is 0% chance that I will ever skydive. It's not happening. But however, I will sit here and listen and even entertain. Well, hi, well that would be fun. The adrenaline and all that. That probably would be nice. But I'll never find out. I might leave that last part out. But just for conversation purposes, I'll entertain the conversation with 0% chance that I'll do anything on that page. But it's still just as a conversation that maybe I'll learn something about skydiving. First skydiver was Native American, so I don't know. You might learn something. Who knows? But I'm still not skydiving. So you still go in there with willing to listen to the person, because it's kind of like it just shows respect for the person. You may not see eye to eye, but I respect you as a human being and an adult.
So I appreciate that perspective, right? And Mo, just so you know, I did invite you to be a speaker, so I'm not sure why that transition isn't occurring. You might want to go out and come back. I'm not really sure. Oh, it has you as a caller. Well, that's something too. All right. Invite to speak. Try this again. All right. So she has now been invited to speak. So hopefully that transition will occur. Um, so, with that being said, right, um, sometimes it is easier to do certain things, right, when we're not emotionally attached to an idea. Okay. So, for instance, skydiving. Someone else skydiving outside of being like a close family member, and then them getting hurt or what have you, someone's decision to skydive doesn't typically have any effect on your life, and so in those instances it is easier to detach from the idea, be curious, or even silent, because it sounds like in that regard you were more silent than you were curious. But be open to learning something, etc. However, let's say the person that wants to go skydiving is your mom. How does that conversation differ from someone else who you're less emotionally attached to?
Well, to be honest, have you ever seen the movie Rocky?
I have seen the movie Rocky, sure.
Do you remember the one where the Russian dude beat up on Apollo Creed, and the Russian dude, he knocked him out, knocked him crazy, and he laying on the ground convulsing, and he's like to I think it was the Rocky or his corner. If he dies, he dies. Like
Ooh,
not
okay.
not saying it like that, but it's one of those things where if you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes sometimes. So if they choose to do that, I mean, I think I said, I don't know if it was on, I think it was on one of the podcasts where I've mentally prepared myself for the loss of everybody and everything. Years prior, I've already done that. So, it's something you don't want to have happen, but life happens. So it is what it is. Like I can talk to them blue in the face, but people gonna do what they want to do.
So let's be kind and rewind for a second. Um, I have prepared myself for the loss of any and everything and everybody, right? I I want to let you know that I heard that. It went in my ears, right? Um, However, I I disagree that someone, see, using my words here. I disagree that someone could prepare for a level of grief and emotional turmoil that they aren't aware would even be present to some degree.
That is correct. I agree that you can't really prepare per se as far as being fully prepared. But on a level, I feel that it's something that you build up scar tissue already for. So it lessens the blow. It's gonna be a blow. It's gonna be a devastating blow, but it's gonna be slightly less devastating with preparation. And it's occurred. I've seen it. I over and over again, and it's definitely a coping mechanism that I acquired many moons ago.
So there's definitely a level of active detachment that one would have to employ, right, to be able to stay in the state in which they are mentally and emotionally prepared to lose someone, um, or some things, right, or someone's plural. What I will say is, as it relates to my mom, and I don't know if she's listening or not, I have absolutely no scar tissue, right? And so it would be horrid, be horrid. Um, Game over, right? I am extremely close to my mother, extremely close to my mother. And though I can assent to the idea, right, I understand on a logical level that she will die, right? Because everyone does. Everyone does. There is a level of denial in me that is ridiculously strong, right? And not denial that she's going to die, but just the the attachment, the holding on to the idea of her life, right? And so um I wouldn't even want to think about, I wouldn't even want to think about it, right? And so, with my mom, and I'm just saying this is from a personal perspective. If my mom advised me, right, that she wanted to uh, skydive without a parachute, and now I'm making it more extreme than the example in which I gave you, Dante. Um, I would have a problem with that, like 100%, like 150,000,000,000%. Like it would be a whole problem, right? And I would probably try to talk her out of it 100%. And so if she just wanted to go skydiving with proper parachuting and things of that nature, right, then I have the understanding that death isn't imminent. Maybe one day my mother and I will skydive together. Who knows? um, but I understand that with proper safety precautions, death isn't imminent. So with that, there's a level of calmness that I can feel about her making that decision. However, any instance in which I would perceive death to be imminent, which is how some people feel about skydiving. Some people feel like you skydive, you die. Like it's not necessarily true, but that's sometimes how people perceive those types of activities. Um, and in that case, if I did believe like that, yeah, definitely would try to talk her out of it. But were you gonna say something, Dante? Mr.
What?
Machismo?
Because I'm actually multitasking too, which is kind of interesting that humans ain't supposed to do it. Because I do it so much, I kind of forget I'm doing it. But like I'm still working and stuff. But overall, like I think from the perspective, like first of all, it's a funny subject because that's something that is probably she's probably less likely than me, and I'm at 0% to do it. So it's kind of so it's good. You know, the apple don't fall far from the tree when it comes to that type of stuff. Though, man, definitely conservative when it comes to taking risks. So there's that. But also, you know, it's just one of those things. I think my perspective with that is losing a parent at an early age kind of put me in a posture where I didn't like that feeling of being kind of caught off guard. Like that was, you know, something that I didn't like, you know, because it kind of, you know, it's a negative thing. Which I mean, I was
Yeah.
fortunate where I had a situation where, you know, everything was orchestrated perfectly. Where I was in a situation where I was in an atmosphere where I could take that negative energy and turn it into something positive, which was sports. And I was able to get really good at sports and kind of take you know use that energy for something, you know, because it's gonna go somewhere. So you got to use it for something. But also, as a latent effect of that, I kind of prep myself for all type of situations because that feeling of something catching you off guard just was just so intense. I didn't like it. So henceforth, I you know kind of made the
Not
decision to kind
henceforth.
of I made the decision to kind of prep myself for all types of the craziest of craziest scenarios. Like it just I've always been creative, so that you know that helps a little bit. But I you know I think about all type of scenarios, and
So, oh, go ahead. I'm
even the
sorry.
sad ones. No, you're fine.
Even
I
the
was just gonna
sad
say
ones.
it was a sad. You know, sometimes just because it's gonna the sunshine gonna be mostly, but it might rain sometimes.
Yes, that is a great R&B lyric. Uh,
Oh, I was about to say there's also one more big elephant in the room with this whole, specifically with my mother and that subject,
hmm
where you know I know this is you know mainstream, but also you know has some religious elements to it. I actually am not worried about that too much because just to throw this out there, years ago we were in a shut-in service, and it was prophesied that everyone in the service will be alive when Jesus returned. And to this day, everyone that was in that service, because it was a smaller service actually, everyone who was in that service is still alive. And keep in mind, they are, you know, getting up there and they're getting a little long in the tooth as far as age. So there's that also. So that's another factor that kind of, you know, kind of jades my perspective with that per se, with her per se.
So there is a part of you that feels as though you don't have to worry about her too much because she's gonna be here
That part.
because someone told you that she would.
Because yeah, it was a prophetic word that came many moons ago when I didn't really even know. I knew I liked it, but I didn't quite know all the rigmarole that comes with that.
And if it was many moons ago, I will just safely assume that I don't know the person who prophesied that, right?
Oh no, that was
Okay, great.
right. I was like in sixth grade,
Oh,
sixth
okay,
seventh grade.
okay. All right. So, but that is many moons. That's many moons.
Hey, hold on now.
Hey man, it's many moons for me too. It's not.
It's like
Age does
10
not
moons ago. No, I'm
discriminate.
just kidding.
Okay, I keep getting older too. Clock is ticking for us all. You know. It's okay. Mo, I would love to know your thoughts on the matter. Speak up, please.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, Mojo. So good to have you.
Guten Tag.
Okay. To Dante, we're talking about Google tongue or whatever he said. Um,
That's German for hello.
okay, great.
Lord have
Hola.
mercy.
So, I listened about what question do you have for me? I listened to what you said and what Dante said, but what would you like me to answer? Because I did miss some of the beginning of his questioning or your question.
So, believe it or not, that lovely conversation was based on the initial question of how do you, right, handle, uncomfortable conversation. We were talking about the holidays coming up, right? And being around individuals that maybe you haven't developed thick skin around. Maybe having to explain a lifestyle or belief system that your um, immediate family is already accepting of, et cetera, right? How do you deal with these uncomfortable conversations with extended family, right, that might not share your point of view?
Yeah, interesting. I for me, I think it depends on the individual that I'm speaking with and where they're at. Um, so I'll say, I can give an example. Y'all was talking about grief a little bit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of my aunts, when my father died recently, one of my aunts was like, your dad, this and that, and this and that. And I had just told her, I said, listen, I'm not in a mental space to be talking about my father or hearing stories right now. And so, she changed the subject and then she went back to it again. Now, this is aunt, we cool, but we ain't close. When I was younger, I would be over there and I spent a lot of time with her. But a lot of things have changed since then, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to abruptly say, hey, yo, auntie, did you hear what I just said? I just said I'm not in a space to talk about that right now. And if you can't respect that, we can't have this conversation right now. So for me, in that time, I wasn't able to have a conversation that she was willing to have or wanted to share. And so I had to set up boundaries saying I was not in a mind space. But when it comes to other people, I've tried to have other conversations with people and they may not receive it. After a while, after a few words that are exchanged between us, I'll leave it alone because they're not going to. Like again, it depends on the individual. That person might not be open to receive what I'm saying at the time. They may not be uh, introduced to that topic or um, whatever it may be, depending on the individual. I can either talk to them or I can't. It depends on if they're defensive about everything or it just depends on the individual. So I'm willing to have conversations. But yeah, I'm also willing to have my peace with some people because some people having conversations with them, um, it can just be ugly sometimes. Um, every once in a blue moon, it can be ugly. So,
So I want to say kudos to you, number one, for stating your boundary, right? That is something, believe it or not, that is actually very difficult for a lot of people. I tend to use a lot of interpersonal effectiveness training with my clients, and for those who joined a little later on, my name is Aquila Wheatley, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. And I am taking callers if you are interested or have questions. Um, with that being said, I use a lot of interpersonal effectiveness training with clients so that they better understand how to express themselves. Um, a lot of times, one of the things that I will teach is the use of I statements, right? Because I statements take accountability. Use statements blame. Use statements invite defensiveness. I statements don't give defensiveness a place to go, right? And so having boundaries is one thing, being able to actually verbalize them is another. So the way that you said, hey, hey auntie, you know, I'm not. See, I love that you did that. You didn't say, hey, you just need to stop talking about that because that's ridiculous, right? That would be a conversation that would possibly be disrespectful, depending on the age of this auntie, or even the position in the family. But it also would bring forth defensiveness, right? It invites defensiveness into the conversation. So the way that you worded it, where you said, hey auntie, I am not in a mental or emotion, I'm paraphrasing, state to deal with this conversation, or be open to this conversation, or any stories about my dad or recollections of him at this particular point in time. I think that that's awesome because you took accountability. You didn't say that she was making you feel uncomfortable, which is what I hear a lot from individuals. They made me feel, he made me feel as if our emotions are not our own, as if we don't own them, and we don't have any control over how we react to them, right? You let them know, I am in this place. I would be in this place whether we were having this conversation or not. However, there is triggers that are in this conversation that is exasperating my current mental and emotional state. So I love the way that you stated that. And then I also love the way that you doubled down on your boundary. When the person drifted off of the subject or whatnot, in respect of the boundary, but then drifted back on, you know, you were very clear again. Hey, auntie, you said, I'm not sure if you heard me, right? So, giving the benefit of the doubt, right? I'm not sure if you heard what I said. However, I want to reiterate that I statements, am not in a mental or emotional state in which to be able to entertain this type of conversation. And then you also gave an out. If this is, if that's an issue, if that's a problem, if we're not able to connect due to that, then maybe we can catch up later or talk later. So you gave yourself an out after that point, after doubling down on your boundaries. So I wanted to say that the way that you did that was really phenomenal. It was very phenomenal.
Thank you. Um, when you was talking, it also made me think about um, being in a space where, okay, so me and your personalities, from what I know, is kind of alike in certain things. Like, you were talking about having a difficult conversation with people. And so, some people will say, you will touch areas that other people won't touch, right? And
Yes.
some things that you say may offend others,
Sure.
or people, or I could say it could offend me. But when you say stuff to me, it doesn't bother me because I am a person who welcomes for you to tell me the truth. May I like what you say? No, I might not. However, I welcome the truth. I'd rather you tell me the truth. And also not only the truth, I feel like it's information, it's knowledge that you are sharing with me, right?
Right.
And so if you're sharing the truth with me or you sharing some knowledge with me, that's you're giving me tools to grow as an individual. And so people say they want the truth, and when you tell them, then they don't want to talk to you no more, or she's very brash, or they give you a label, she's very this or and this and that, or they'll call you confrontational or this and that, but I'm just willing to have a conversation that you're not willing to have or don't want to confront. And so it depends on individuals because we're all different, right?
Right, of
And
course.
so that's interesting to me how some people look at those who are willing to confront, or not even confront, just have the conversation about something that others may not be willing to have or even say. and it'll be taken as something negative versus positive for some individuals. So,
So in that, I heard you say multiple things, Mo. What I heard you say is I care about the intent of the individual, right? You gave an example of myself maybe telling you something that was uncomfortable for you to hear, and you said, it doesn't offend me coming from you. And what I hear in that is I know that your intent is to help and not harm, right? And so if I know the person's intent is to help and not harm, I'm more receptive to the information that they are giving to me than someone who I believe is there to harm and not help. So I think that that's a really important perspective to understand, right? Because the way that we perceive people's intent will definitely have a lot to do with how we react to the things that they say. As it relates to confrontation, um, there is a family therapy model called strategic therapy, right? And in strategic therapy, one of the principles or one of the interventions is actually constructive confrontation. I am a huge fan, huge, big, uh, of constructive confrontation in the sense that I will poke at areas that are uncomfortable on purpose, right? Because we need to know what hurts before we can heal it, right? So it's just like going to a doctor's office, right? And you say, well, my ankle is hurting horribly, right? And then the doctor touches everything on you but your ankle. Well, how can he gauge your pain level, the fracture, you know, and the healing or intervention that needs to be applied if he doesn't touch your ankle? Confrontation is necessary. Conflict is a way or a vehicle of growth. And a lot of times it's because we're not willing to have those types of conversations that we stay stagnant. Mr. Machismo, your thoughts?
When I used to work at a certain company that'll go unnamed,
I just want to let you know that your volume is very low.
what about now? What we looking like? That's better.
Not
A little
really.
better.
I don't know. No.
Oh, I wonder what
If
happened.
you could speak directly into the burger. No.
Ah, ah, ah.
that is
Yes.
hilarious.
Welcome to Good Burger. I'm the Good Burger.
No,
But
continue, Dante.
now, where, now, well, now that there was a certain CEO at a place of employment that I was at that she termed this type of discussion a courageous conversation, and that is a necessary thing, and that is something that is inevitable. You're gonna have them, and you have to have them. Now, what I've learned over the years is you can't have them with everybody because of something that you spoke of specifically, the intent of the person, where intent has to be established in order to be recognized. And that's a process. That's not something that is an overnight thing you just trust everybody with. So, that's something that you could have with anybody who the intent is established. But until that intent is established, there cannot be those type of conversations. It's something you have to work your way up to. But that's my perspective on that. They gotta
Interestingly,
have.
oh, I'm sorry, what?
No, they gotta happen.
They gotta happen, right?
They gotta happen.
Interestingly enough, you said, intent is something that you have to work your way up to. essentially, I would say, and opposing that is that you find out intent through these types of conversations. You know, through conflict, through going through these hard conversations, you learn intent, right? Based on how someone can, deflects, based on whether or not someone begins to use personal attacks towards you within confrontation, whether someone is able to um, say, agree to disagree. You kind of learn intent really in having these conversations. What you build is trust. What do you think?
That works for some, absolutely. But I think we kind of saying the same thing in a way, where you kind of test the waters, you see what people can handle, you see what time. Because there's even friendships where you got some friends that are just okay. You can have a good time, watch the game with. There's other friends, okay, you could talk a little bit more about your personal lives. Then there's other friends you could tell everything to. Just all depends on the level that these people are engaged in you, or even more so, their intent. What are they? Who are they? What is their motives? What is their intentions? What is the agenda here? It's just a lot of variables with people, but the key is if it's genuine, then if it's genuine, you always gonna win. Y'all gonna grow together. That's the whole thing. It don't, and unfortunately in this day and age, that ain't a thing that happens all the time. Because everybody ain't looking through their scope. They don't know his aim. A little Jeezy reference. But anyway,
But
everybody's not having an understanding of the goal for you.
I want to add to Dante when you done. I'm sorry.
No, you good. No, I was about done. I think.
So, but when you say that, there are even people that know you have good intent, that you have been good to, that still can be offensive and, um, project after you share information that they may not be ready to hear. And they know the intent is good. Like, okay, I still use Aquila.
Hello, Mo.
Yeah.
Hello. I think we lost Mo. While we are in the process of getting her back, right? Um, I definitely want to well, I was gonna kind of piggyback because I was thinking from a dichotomous mindset, right? A dichotomous perspective, um, meaning like there's only two possible outcomes, right? The two possible outcomes of intent from a dichotomous perspective only, right, would be to harm or not to harm. And so when you describe three different friend groups, and one friend you can talk to, about sports, and the other friend you can talk to a little bit deeper, and then you have this last friend who you can tell everything to. It sounds like they all have the intent not to harm.
On a level, yes. On a level, yes. Well, there are. It's just about what people are able to. How can I put it? There are some individuals that are so abstract and have limited understanding on a level of because they just have not been educated on certain things or been around certain things or just aren't simply aware of certain things or simply don't care about certain things, that certain subjects may just not be in their wheelhouse, may not be something that it really is value to bring up. Where on a level there could be no intent of harm, but harm still occurs. So it's really just a kind of KYP, knowing your personnel, understanding, you know, and it's just I think it's a process where you establish people that you are accountable to, people that you could relax and be yourself or be unadulterated with. That's something that is of value. That's something that is not just a plethora of it, just all around. So that's something to really cherish. That understand what you're trying to do with yourself, what your goals are, macro, micro, all of that, and that's really understanding who you are, and that helps because people can have the right intention, they can have all the right intentions, but they're you could hand somebody a steak dinner, but it's on a garbage can lid. It could be the presentation. It could be just simply the right thing in the wrong way. It's just kind of that's that. I think that's the best way to kind of describe how that sort of thing is. Where you could have all the right intentions, but it just isn't landing because it's a round peg in a square hole.
If it doesn't fit, you must have
It
quit.
must have quit.
Y'all crazy.
So, Mo, we can finally hear you now. I would love to hear what you were trying to say earlier.
Oh my God. All that stuff I said, y'all didn't hear it.
We didn't hear none.
Oh, you was talking?
Nothing.
Oh,
Man, I was going.
you. Oh, that sucks. That is the worst,
I was
man.
like,
Oh.
hello, do anybody hear what I'm saying? And y'all was both silent. I was
That
like,
is the worst, man.
oh boy. Okay.
Take two.
So what I was take two. So what I was saying was that sometimes the intent can be good all the time because you know this individual, but you may not be ready for what they say. And
Mm-hmm.
so say for instance, okay, Aquila said something to me and I'm like, I know her intent is good. However, I start projecting like, oh, you shouldn't have said that, or I wouldn't do that. And she didn't really do nothing wrong, but it bothered me more of her because of my own feelings. So I just share this. I wrote a book with some young ladies, right? I just wrote like a devotional. We did a devotional, and I did a section, and in my piece I talked about my mom and I talked about me. And in the piece I shared that, I shared that, don't blame my mom or don't come for my mom, but she did the best she could. And I was sharing a part of my story. And so a lady told me, she was like, I would have never uncovered my mom like that. She may feel some type of way. I would ask my mom if I could publish that before you put that in there. And I said, well, first of all, I'm not talking about my mom. And I said, don't beat up my mother in the story. And I don't have a problem with my mother. And so I said, but it was a part of my story. Part of my story is a part of her story. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so in the process of me sharing that, the lady was like, she was really mad. It was like she was offended. And she told me, that's kind of like dishonor. And I didn't dishonor my mom. That's just like in maybe some churches, sometimes people would say, you can't lack honor by saying something and saying this. No, if I said it tasteful, that doesn't mean I'm dishonoring. I'm asking a question, or I have a statement and I would like to be heard, or I have a question. I'm not dishonoring that individual. I can say what I want to say. Do you get what I'm saying? And it was a part of my story. So anyway, I did give the story to my mom to read, and my mother cried, and she said at first, I did feel some kind of way. And she said, but when I read the end, when you said, don't attack my mom or don't come for my mom, and I had to think about it from your perspective, she was like, oh, many women and children would get healed from this. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, but the individual who read the story, she dogged me. She was like, I don't feel that you uncovering her and this and that. And I was like, but it's still part of my story. And so I wasn't disrespectful. I don't feel like I was uncovering her. I spoke the truth though. And I felt like this individual was projecting something on me, because some of our stories is similar with our parents. And she said she would never share the stories and the things that her mother did. And I said, well, that's you. I have a certain freedom, that some people don't have or comfortable to share. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And I
And
think
when you have freedom, when you have freedom, I notice people who are are free about things. A lot of people be offended about that. And
fair.
I think they be projecting stuff about their own insecurities of they're either worried about what other people have to say, their own insecurities about whatever their insecurity is. But I've noticed people who walk in freedom and walk a certain way, some people even have an issue with people being free from certain bondages and places and things. And that just really amazes me. Okay, I'm done.
So, with that being said, I did want to give you the opportunity to, if the book is published, let people know the name of the book and where they can find it.
Oh no, they didn't publish it yet. We just did it like 6 months ago, and they didn't publish it yet. And I just have a section, but you know what? I should I say this on here? I think I need to write that and put that in my own book. But anyway, okay, moving on, moving forward. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, of
It's not all.
course, of course. I also want to say that something that you are talking about it, you said when you are free, right? And all of us have areas in which we are still bondage, for whatever reason, right? But if you have an area in your life that is free, right, and then someone else, again, you stated, you used the word project, they begin to project their bondage onto you, essentially, right, is what I'm hearing you say. And what they're giving you is all the reasons why they're not free in that area. They're giving you the criteria that keeps them in bondage in that area. And so that's what you're really hearing, right? you know it would be dishonoring, right? Essentially what you're hearing that person say, if you reflect that, is, I can't tell my story in the manner in which you did because I'm afraid that it would dishonor my mother. That's what you're really hearing. And so that's real. That type of projection is really you, and you find that in many things, because people have a lot of different boundaries about a lot of different things based on a lot of different values, whether it's personal values or inherited values, etc., right? And it all falls down to perception. And so those that are not free in that area, they cringe, right? Because freedom to them, it doesn't necessarily look attainable. They've decided this thing is wrong, and that's what allows them to be comfortable in whatever bondage in which they've set around themselves. And so when you come out and you are telling your story in this free way, right? They then project their discomfort onto you. And essentially, is what was happening there. And I do want to honor what you said, Dante, Mr. Machismo, same person, right? And what you said, Mojo, and that is, you don't have to have ill intent to hurt anyone. You don't. How someone perceives you, the manner in which someone might trust you, right, will determine whether or not they give you the benefit of the doubt, essentially. So, with that being said, I want to thank Dante, Mr. Machismo. I also want to thank Mojo. These are my tried and true panelists. They are with me pretty much every Thursday, because, as I always say, the world would be so boring with only one point of view. And again, for those who may have missed it, my name is Aquila Wheatley, and I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. If you want to learn more about me, check out my website, www.supportiveadvice.com. You can also catch our podcast on Google, Apple, and Spotify podcasts. You can also catch the replay of this episode via Facebook, on the Supportive Advice page, and you can catch it on YouTube as well, on Aquila Wheatley LMFT. And I'm not gonna spell that because that's way too long. So just look at my room. My name is on there. It's there. So, with that being said, I thank you, Joshua, for joining us. I saw you. Hopefully next time you'll join us and speak, right? But we thank all that come to listen, all that stay with us here. Make sure you subscribe, and enjoy the rest of your week. Thank you so much. This has been a great show. I appreciate you all. Good night. Remember, for all of you that is listening on Facebook or YouTube, I am accepting a couple clients, family clients, as well as adult individual clients. We are currently accepting Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield, as of recently, as well as United Healthcare. So definitely come check out our website, schedule an appointment, www.supportiveadvice.com. Join us here, subscribe to our channel, and make sure you catch the podcast. Because why not, right? Have a good one. Be blessed.